Welcome to the 2020 business meeting of the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis. I am the editor-in-chief, Dr. Linda LeBlanc, and I want to extend my thanks for you taking a few minutes out of your week to watch this screencast. We all would have preferred to be together in DC for this update, but I'm still delighted to be able to give you an update on what's happening at JABA. So let's get started. The first thing I'd like to do is remind you of who is carrying a very heavy workload on behalf of your journal, our associate editors, two of whom will be finishing their terms this year. Dr. Jeffrey Tiger will be rotating off after a 4-year term as an associate editor for JABA, and Dr. Andy Littell will be rotating off after a 3-year term as the translational associate editor. So special thanks to them and their service to the field. Our other associate editors are also working hard to handle the papers that you submit and to try to do so in a timely fashion. That's Dr. Nate Call, Dr. Flo DeGennaro-Reed, Dr. Jeannie Donaldson, Dr. Griffin Rooker, Dr. Jason Vladescu, and Dr. Alice Schillingsberg. Thanks to each of them. We are inviting 2 people to join us as associate editors in the spring. Dr. Derek Reed will be joining as the translational associate editor, and Dr. Nicole Rodriguez will be joining as an associate editor as well. Congratulations to them and thanks in advance for your service. In addition, we have a number of individuals who participate in our AE Mentor program. These mentors are former associate editors and editors of the journal who continue to give their time to support younger professionals to learn the ropes in the endeavor of either preparing them to eventually be a full-time AE or to continue to serve as a guest AE for our journal. Dr. John Barrero supports Dr. Andy Craig. Dr. Joel Ringdahl supports Dr. Jonathan Baker. Dr. Eileen Roscoe supports Dr. Catherine Peterson. Dr. Caio Miguel supports Dr. April Kaisamore. Dr. Jennifer Zarconi supports Dr. Jessica Beecraft. Dr. Timothy Vollmer supports Dr. Tyra Sellers. Dorothy Lehrman supports Dr. Craig Strohmeyer. And Dr. Jim Carr supports Jessica Slayton. Each of these people do me a great favor by offering this mentorship, and they do the journal a great favor by making us more capable of handling our volume of manuscripts and by training the next generation to be effective in their role in the editorial process. One of the new things that we've launched this year is our Inside JABA podcast series. Special thanks to Matt Sikoria of the Behavioral Observations podcast, who has been wonderful as a partner to us and has launched the Inside JABA series as part of his Behavioral Observations podcast. He works with us in advance to prepare each of the podcasts and has been a wonderful partner. The 2 people who kind of came up with this brainchild are Dr. Jeff Tiger, who is currently an AE, and Dr. Claire St. Peter, a former AE. I work together with the 2 of them such to host and select the topic and prepare the content for each of these podcasts. These podcasts launch each quarter in conjunction with our online publication. So the inaugural podcast did launch in December, and it really described kind of the peer-reviewed process and specifically the JABA editorial process. Our January podcast focused on my Big Ideas editorial and an example of such a paper by LaFrance, and Danielle LaFrance, who is also our editorial assistant, was our guest. Our April paper focused on the topic of accumulated and distributed reinforcement, and Dr. Willie DeLeon was kind enough to be our guest. You will be seeing approximately 4 of these per year, so please listen, and this should give you an opportunity to consume at least a portion of JABA in a very convenient and hopefully engaging way. There are a few management initiatives that we have been working on at the journal. The first is the timeliness of the editorial process. When you submit your paper, you are giving over your paper for a period of time to the editorial process, and we fully embrace the responsibility to handle those manuscripts that you entrust to us in a timely fashion at every step of the process. And so you should expect to have a timely editorial process, or else to receive correspondence about any minor delay in that process. And we've been working hard throughout the last year and a half to really expedite these papers while still giving them a full and robust editorial review. You can also, if your paper is accepted, expect your paper to get into early view quickly so that it can begin influencing the work of others. And finally, the flip side of that is, as an author, we really ask you to please submit your revisions on time. This really helps us get our science visible to other scientists in a way that can ensure a fluid and completely up-to-date scientific process. Another part of this is an emphasis on selectivity based on the criterion of really moving the field forward. That is, that the paper is impactful. Perhaps you've noticed the oversized issues in 2020. We had not yet really been being more selective, and as our submissions went up, what that meant is that we have had super jumbo double-sized issues for the first two of 2020, and actually at least for the third and perhaps the fourth. And that should put us on track to see some different results as a result of this initiative. So we are getting more submissions than ever, and we have to be more selective about what we publish. So in addition to being a well-conducted study, which is an absolute requirement, I have instructed all AEs to be thoughtful about the degree to which the paper that they are handling will change how we think and what we do every day as behavior analysts as they make their editorial decisions. Well, let's take a look at some data. These are data on our total number of subscriptions, and you can see that these data have gone up since about 2014. There is no phase change line here, but the independent variable was our transition to Wiley as a publisher. And you can see that the increase in subscriptions really is accounted for with almost exactly that same curve by increased library subscriptions associated with being part of the Wiley bundle. This means that a much broader number of people, or much broader swath of people, have access to JABA. This shows you the number of articles published each year and the number of pages published. Our current 2020 year is not on here, but you can probably guess that we're going to have to re-anchor the y-axis when 2020 hits the graph. So you can see that in recent years we have been publishing around 80 articles per year, sometimes slightly less than that, but with an increasing number of pages. So please do not be surprised if you hear from your AE or from me that we are trying to streamline these papers, and we have placed some word limits on the intro and discussion of our manuscripts. That really is part of trying to manage the volume of papers and make these papers slim and svelte, and yet still influential with respect to the impact on the behavior of practitioners and researchers. This shows you the number of manuscripts submitted. So we operate right in the 300 to 320 range pretty consistently for the last 5 years or so. And 2020 so far looks to be a banner year. We are not yet at the halfway mark of the year, and we have hit the 200th submission. So papers are coming in, which is wonderful. Keep submitting your papers, and we will do our best to continue to be as efficient in our editorial process, even as the numbers go up. This shows you that the vast majority of our submissions are research articles. The report was mechanism was retired a few years ago, so you see that go to 0. We do have replications, discussion and technical articles and brief reviews, but those really are relatively small numbers of submissions. Compared to our research articles. And I would love to see more of these discussion articles and review papers. I will let you know that my preference tends to be for a full discussion article rather than a brief review. I think they tend to be more impactful. I think that very often, in order to really explore the meaningfulness of the literature, you do need a little bit more space than the brief review allows. This shows you our non-US submissions. We do track this because it is important to us to have non-US authors submitting to our journal and feeling like they are benefiting from the editorial review process. Doesn't guarantee that a paper will be accepted, but it is important to me that every person who submits to JABA feels like they were the beneficiary of a well-curated editorial process. This just shows you in tabular form that about 26% of our submissions were international submissions, and a relatively small proportion of those international submissions generated international publications. One of the things that contributes to this is that many of these international submissions, I would say somewhere in the 40 to 50% range, are papers that are not actually behavior analysis. These international authors are not familiar with our journal, and they are submitting their papers kind of around a variety of different journals. And so they are more traditional psychology submissions, often on personality and organizational decision making, and they just really are not behavior analysis. And so this numerator is going up, up, up as a result of a growing number of international researchers seeing us through the Wiley system, but those international researchers are not necessarily behavior analysts. This shows you our acceptance rate for all submissions. I mentioned that many of those papers that are not actually behavior analysis are handled with a reject out of hand, which means we know ahead of time this really isn't the right paper for JABA, and we try to tell the authors about that within just a few days of the submission so that they can move their paper to a more appropriate journal. So when you see with reject out of hands, our acceptance rate is a little bit lower, but for the papers that actually went through the editorial peer review process, we have been pretty much steady as a rock, right around the 30% acceptance rate. And, again, 30% of a whole lot of papers is still a lot of papers. And so we will be, again, for each paper, just endeavoring to make sure that it is clean and tight and experimentally well controlled, and also is a paper that is likely to make a significant contribution to the literature. If you look at our decisions based on article type, you will see all the acceptance as a dark bar and reject as a light bar. It looks like our discussion articles actually have the lowest rate of acceptance, right under that 25% mark, and we don't get tons of them. My goal is actually to have people submit more discussion articles reflective of these big ideas. Discussion articles can be a combination of a literature review and a way to think differently moving forward, and to try to help foster some of these big idea papers going through the system. This by no means guarantees publication, but it does mean that as a team, we're going to be endeavoring to help you make your paper just as good as it possibly can be. And I would love to see the acceptance rate for those kinds of papers go up, not artificially, but meaningfully, because the quality of our literature review and discussion papers are things that really will challenge us and accelerate the development of our field. You can see, as I said, we've been working very hard on the timeliness of our initial decision letters, and the team is just doing a fantastic job. We have pretty much eliminated this year-to-year variability, and these data points for the various different types of articles sit very close to the specified window, such that we're pretty much hitting the mark. In terms of the time for final acceptance to publication, this graph looks at slightly different articles than the one before it. So these are not papers that were handled by the AEs for that initial decision in 2019. These are the papers that actually came out in 2019. And so next year, I do think that you will see these various different lag times go down, and that will reflect all of the papers that come out in 2020. We, with all of these submissions, do have a large number of guest AEs, including our AE mentors and mentees, former editors, former associate editors, who offer us this wonderful pool of highly qualified and influential researchers who are willing to still devote their time and effort to the editorial process for the journal. So we're very much appreciative of this. We try not to rely on you to the point where it feels too burdensome, but we really do appreciate your input. This is our impact factor. 2019 is not on here yet, but it will be out soon. These 2018 data come from a 3-year revolving window, and this wonderful trend that you see in impact factor culminating in a 2018 impact factor of over 2.0 is fully a result of Dr. Greg Hanley's great work. So any impact factor associated with my issues of the journal will be down the road in a few years. So thank you to Dr. Hanley, former editor of JABA, for your great work to increase our impact factor. These were the top cited papers in 2019, and they spanned topics such as functional communication training, renewal, multiple schedules, synthesized contingencies, and a variety of different variables, particularly that can impact problem behavior in the individuals that we serve. So congratulations to each of you. Now, JABA has a two-pronged mission. We absolutely want to influence scientific research, but we also serve as, I hope, a useful North Star and resource to practitioners. And so we also look at our downloads, and our downloaded articles, our top downloaded articles, do not to be the same ones as our cited articles. And so these article downloads really represent what our practitioners are finding useful from some of our JABA publications. So let's take a look at our most downloaded. What you'll see is there's no overlap with the most cited papers. So we have topics ranging from peer social interactions for children with autism, token economy, the good behavior game, language in children with autism, teaching job-related social skills, Olympic weightlifting, teaching responses to bullying, all kinds of really interesting and useful papers that we hope are giving you what you need as practitioners. Each year we give an award, and that represents the contribution of the year, and this is selected by our editor and AEs, and this year we selected Greer and Shahan, Resurgence as Choice, and we congratulate them on a wonderful article. In addition, we look to the past to honor papers that really sparked the germination of new ideas, new frameworks, and really new abilities to do good in the world via behavior analysis. So you can see here a list of the articles that have received this award in the past, beginning in 2013. And the article for 2019 is Achievement Place, Modification of the Behaviors of Pre-Delinquent Boys Within a Token Economy. And these authors will be presented, those still with us will be presented with a plaque. And so in this way, we honor our past and reflect on really the gifts of science and our prior science, and also honor those things that are continuing to make us a vibrant scientific field. Thank you for giving us a bit of your time for this business meeting. I hope to see you all in person next year at ABA-I. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to email at jaba@lbehavioral.com.